What up, nerds? It's Jason here from Custom Cans, and today we're going to have a look at the HE400 versus the HE400se and how mods affect them. We're going to try a couple of mods on each. It was really interesting having a go. Basically, the way this came about is that we kind of got stitched up. We sold a pair of HE400se on eBay, and then the person sent them straight back, asked for a return. And I know that people do this, you know, they'll buy headphones, they'll try them out, they'll return them straight away. But top tip, don't do that to a small business. Buy them from Amazon or somewhere. Like, returns cost us a lot of money. It's not cool. Anyway, even worse than that. We got them back. We didn't really check them over. We just had a look, made sure they're in the box. But it turns out they'd been very sneaky, and they'd replaced the ear cups from an older pair of HE400s with the ones from the SE. So they're basically taking the Stealth magnet version and then returned to us the old version. I'm like, that is a dick move. But it did mean that I got to have a play with the HE400s without the Stealth magnets, which was kind of interesting. So every cloud, silver lining, blah 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 blah. But don't do that. Yeah, I know you guys are cool. You wouldn't do that, but don't do that to a small company. It's not cool. Do that to Amazon. Much better. So, without further ado, basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a look inside the ear cup, have a look at the Stealth magnets versus the non-Stealth magnets, which is kind of interesting. And then we'll also do some tests. So, a popular mod with these is to basically replace the grill with a more open one. And I was surprised at the difference it makes on the older version of the HE400s versus the new ones. It's a revelation. So, and then also we're going to try some other mods, because I don't know if you've seen the other ones, but I basically did a whole thing on the HE400se, redesigned them, did some clever stuff with flow simulation and that kind of stuff to make them sound super awesome. But several people have tried to do this mod, and several people have broken their headphones. I just don't think this is. I don't know. Like, if you, I don't think it's that hard. Our technicians here could do it, no problem, and I think most people could do it. But yeah, it turns out that some people are a bit ambitious and they're used to things being a bit more simple. And maybe this is a bit advanced for some people, and they've basically broken drivers and poked things, even though I told people not to. So anyway, long story short, I saw if I could basically incorporate some of that tech into a much easier mod. And I have done that to a certain amount of success. We can squeeze a bit more goodness out of these using some clever technology, but really this is still vastly superior with sound staging and that kind of stuff. So this is still good, but I've got some other mods, some easier ones where you're not going to break your headphones. So anyway, let's crack on. Alright, so if I'm going to do this comparison, what I've got to do is get some unfettered HE400SEs out. And they come really well packaged, it has to be said. Very impressive. Cool. Right, we won't get those mixed up. And yeah, I don't know if you know, but Hifiman now sends them out with a new cable, which is much nicer than the old cable. The old cable on the HE400se, it was silver-plated copper and Teflon and stuff, but it was just a bit nasty. This one's not made of quite such fancy materials, but it's a lot less microphonic and it's just better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some baseline measurements for each of them. Cool. Right, so let's get the HE400se, the real ones that someone hasn't swapped the drivers out on. So, comparing the two, you'll notice that the same volume on the amplifier, the older HE400 is actually a little bit louder. And it looks maybe slightly flatter on the graph. But it's interesting, and I will show you why I think that is. Why they lost some volume when they moved to the Stealth magnets. But everyone agrees the Stealth magnets sound loads better than the other ones, and I've had a listen. Like because I was doing some experiments, that's how I found these out, and I'm like, these don't sound quite right. I had them open, different drivers. Yeah, which I don't want to get these mixed up. Okay, so let us have a look inside and see the difference between the two. Okay, so which is which? This is the 400. This is the 400se. So let's bust this one open first. So to remove the grills, which is a popular mod, it's super easy. You just basically, there you go, it fell out pretty much. So you have to remove this ring. So stick a screwdriver down the edge. It's just held in with four 4 little protrusions around the outside. So if you can just pop one of those, it'll pop out, and then you can remove this grille, and underneath we can see the driver. And this is the Stealth magnet version that I've looked at before. We've got these magnets with the rounded off edges, which helps with the airflow, just smooths it out, stops turbulence in there. And then this is the older one, the HE400. You can see there, so you can see the difference. You've got the squared off magnets on this one, and you'll also notice that the magnets are wider. So overall, these are bigger magnets. They're taller, they're wider, and they don't have the rounded off corners, which is going to mean that they've got more magnetic flux. So with the same diaphragm in each, because you've got a greater magnetic flux in there, I would have thought you're going to get a bit more torque moving it backwards and forwards, and they're going to be a little bit more efficient, which is why these ones output louder than these ones. I think that's why it is. So it does mean if you've got the older ones, they're probably easier to drive from a portable player. The new ones, you kind of need to amplify them a little bit more. But all of these respond better if you use a proper amplifier. So now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the grills, take some measurements again, and see what difference that makes to the two different models. Okay, so that's that one. That's the not Stealth magnet one. Let's measure again. Measure. Start measuring. So yeah, so quite interestingly, just by removing the grills, we've picked up a little bit around in the sub-bass region, around 30 Hertz. So you've got a little bit more bass. Picked up a little bit between sort of 1 and 2K as well. So that has kind of altered the sound signature and given you a little bit more sub-bass just by removing the grills. And then if you have a look online, I'm sure there's some people that have made 3D printed grills that you can go in that have got a greater open area. So it's leaving them open like that is just asking for trouble with things falling inside. But yeah, I put some kind of grill but with bigger holes essentially, and if you can find one with hexagons, they generally have a greater open area. So find that. The 3D printed ones are ones that you can buy out there, I am sure. Grill. Okay, so now let's try the same with the Stealth magnet version. So interestingly, as you can see on the Stealth magnet version, removing the grill doesn't really have the same effect. It's pretty much the same. You've gained a tiny weeny bit here or there, but it's kind of within variance of two different measurements, just if I had the pads placed slightly differently, that kind of stuff. You will notice as it drops off sort of right down the bottom between sort of 10 and 20 Hertz, you lose a little bit removing the grill, but those aren't really within audible hearing range, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. So, interesting, isn't it? Because I'd heard a lot of people say, oh, remove the grills, it makes so much difference, and that's probably because they had these older ones, and it does make a noticeable difference, whereas on the HE400se, it's probably not worth doing, to be honest. You're better off with the protection. If you're worried about it having a bit more airflow and sounding a bit more open, what I'd do is I'd peel off if you remove the grills, then you can peel off the backing, which is a little bit of mesh in there, and that will make it a little bit more open. But yeah, as far as changing the frequency response, it doesn't change it all that much. So let's move on to the next one. As I said, these jobbies, a lot of I was trying to game in a bit more sub-bass and make them sound a bit more increase the sound staging and just generally make them a bit more detailed and awesome, and I pretty much succeeded. I'm really super pleased with this mod, but as I said, it's not that easy to do, so I decided to design an easier to do one. So I've essentially made these inserts. Okay, so basically what I've done is I've designed these inserts, and what they've got is like blades in here that manage the airflow, and I've also integrated a grill to stop you from being able to poke stuff into there, and this should clip into the original housings and give you some of the advantages of this without having to do very much, without having to completely dismantle your headphones and potentially break them. So, all you have to do to work with these is, they're left and right handed. Have I got the wrong one? I've got the wrong one. Let's find one that's the right orientation. No. Yes. So inside there was wires coming off the socket here, and you need to use a little bit of double-sided tape just to stick them around the edge out of the way here, otherwise these won't fit in properly. Let's do this thing. Yeah, so they just click in there and they'll align with the magnets in there and just manage the airflow around them. Okay, so with these inserts in, basically it's altered the tuning of them, so you've picked up a tiny weeny bit down around 20 Hertz right in the thing, but we've actually scooped out a little bit from around 1K going up to around 5K, so it's got more of a kind of V-shaped tune, or this is probably closer to the Harman curve, I don't know. But yeah, so you've got more of a kind of V-shaped tune, so you've got flat in the bass and then it drops down and then up in the treble, which is a more pleasing sound for a lot of people. So that's what you do on these ones, and then let's just try the other. So as you remember, removing the grills on the HE400se didn't have a great deal of effect on anything. Let's see if this does the same job on those. Yeah, so essentially you've got the same thing where it just gives it a bit more of a V-shaped tune with a bit more of a dip around 2K, and you pick up some more in the bass. Yeah, so versus removing the grill, because when you remove the grills we lost a little bit in the bass, and with this you pick it up again in the sub bass. But generally the bass will sound a little bit crisper anyway if you drop the mids down a little bit. Yeah, so they do sound a bit more open and kind of airy with this mod in, but it doesn't have nearly as much of effect as it did changing everything. So I might see if I can, I think a lot of that is because inside the ear cap I also have this bit here which kind of spaces the pads out away from the driver and manages the airflow a bit on the other side as well. So I might see if I can make something that clips onto the original housings on the inside as well and just spaces the pads out a little bit. That might give it that kind of more open and spacious sound that I was getting from the fully modded ones. But anyway, so that's a little update, and interesting seeing inside the HE400 versus the HE400se and what the differences are. Yeah, so I'm not 100% certain what I'm going to do with these inserts. If nothing else, they make them look mighty fancy. Ooh, look at that, it's pretty sexy. But yeah, so we've got a little bit more development to do with this. I'm still tweaking a few things. I'm not 100% happy with it. But when they are finished, we'll probably be selling the STL files for you to 3D print yourself on the cheap. Just so we can recoup some of the development costs, just because, as you can imagine, there's quite a few hours that goes into designing a piece like that. And we need to make that money back somehow, and YouTube is not going to do it, I think. I think we only earn like 30 quid a month or something from YouTube, so yeah, that would pay for an hour of work a month, which wouldn't even cover the editing costs. So anyway, it's been super awesome hanging out. If you've got any questions or you'd like to see us fiddle with some other stuff, let me know. Also, another idea just for you people that have kind of hung on till the end, I was thinking if any of you have got some interesting headphones that are broken that you fancy sending in, we can have a look and see how they're made and see if we can maybe fix them for you. I don't know. Yeah, but it'd make an interesting video. So I'm looking for some interesting looking headphones, or headphones with interesting features, or just awful headphones. If you've got some interesting broken headphones, let me know. And yeah, maybe we can sort something out where you can send them in and I can pull up parts, see how they're made, maybe fix them for you, and just have a look at the weird features and design decisions that have been made in them. Anyway, super awesome hanging out. See you guys again. If you fancy liking and subscribing, do that. But you guys have probably already subscribed, aren't you? Because you're cool. Yeah, if you haven't subscribed, my God, what are you doing? Anyway, super awesome hanging out. I'll see you guys again. If you fancy liking and subscribing, do the thing. Click various buttons and stuff. And yeah, check out some of these other videos on YouTube. I've heard they're pretty good.